And let's go to Yemen. A Saudi-led coalition that has been bombing the Houthi movement in Yemen for 9 months has ended a truce that began on December 15 in a setback to attempts to end the conflict. The ceasefire began in the tandem with a peace talks sponsored by the United Nations, but it was repeatedly violated by both sides. I-24 News correspondent Ur Shapira has more.
Fighting continues in Yemen, a day after the Saudi-led coalition ended the ceasefire that was announced on December 15th. The move came after the truce was violated numerous times and amid a lull in UN-backed peace negotiations, which were set to resume January 14th.
Unfortunately, there were numerous violations of the cessation of hostilities, which affected the progress of the talks. Despite this, the parties made serious progress through identifying a framework for negotiations towards a comprehensive settlement, in addition to defining a set of relevant confidence-building measures.
The conflict in Yemen began last March when Iranian-supported Houthi Shiite rebels took over the capital Sana'a and forced the government into exile. Several weeks later, Sunni Saudi Arabia launched an air campaign in the country. According to the UN, around 6,000 people have been killed in the conflict, including 2,700 civilians. This weekend's execution of prominent Saudi Shiite cleric Nimr al-Nimr bodes poorly, as tension between Saudi Arabia and Iran, the two major powers backing opposition sides in Yemen, are likely to increase. What happens in Yemen is unlikely to stay in Yemen, with the implications of war liable to affect the political and military balance.
And with me right now on the phone is Nisma Al-Ozabi, a human rights activist. Good evening. Thank you very much for joining me.
Good evening.
So Nisma, the last time that we spoke, you said that you really hope that the situation will be better after the ceasefire will get in. And what we're seeing now is that the ceasefire is violated. And the situation, how can you describe it right now?
The situation is much the same and somehow getting worse. The violations were mostly in Taiz. Taiz has been in a blockade since the start of the conflict. And you cannot find food. You cannot find even oxygen. Oxygen in the hospitals. You can't find it. We have seen and have heard that a lot of kids, a lot of injured in Taiz have died due to the blockade in the government.
Yes. So, what do you expect will happen the next few days?
The government must do something about supporting Taiz to get aid to enter the government, because the human situation in there is too complicated. In Taiz there are almost 4 million people. Can you imagine that the largest population city in Yemen is now under a blockade for almost a year? So the government must compromise with the Houthi militia so aid can enter Taiz.
So, you're talking about millions and millions of people. What is the humanitarian situation right now?
The humanitarian situation is the worst right now. We have heard that Muhammad, I don't remember the name, he have wrote that his newborn child was died because there is no oxygen in the hospital. He wrote a status on Facebook which was so emotional. Yesterday, a lot of Yemeni activists have done a tweet storm about supporting Taiz, and we do hope that the international media and the government pay attention to Taiz, because the crisis in there is getting more and more worse.
Yes, and Nisma Al-Ozabi, I hope that next time that we will speak with you, the situation will be a little bit better. Thank you very much for this. Avi Melamed, you asked us to look at the geopolitical situation. If we're looking at the geopolitical situation, we saw that Saudi Arabia is maybe initiating this the end of the ceasefire. What we will see this after happening now after this?
Look, what's going on in Yemen, we have to understand that almost in March, this coming March, it will be 1 year since the Arab coalition or the Muslim coalition under the leadership of Saudi Arabia is operating in Yemen. In the end of the day, the name of the game in Yemen is what are the best cards you can come up with to the table to negotiate? All sides know that. The Houthis know that, Abdullah Saleh knows that, the Saudis know that, the Iranians know that, and so forth and so forth. In the end of the day, there will be no other solution but coming to the table and negotiating. And everybody is trying to come to the table with the better cards in their hand. As I was saying time and time again, this is one of the things that in my evaluation, the Iranian will have to compromise, because the Saudis, the Egyptians, and now back in the backyard, the Turkish as well, are basically sending message to Iran, Yemen is off limit. And in addition to that, we have to remember there are international decisions about it, the Security Council decisions. So in the end of the day, it's about trying to make a better positions where the sides involved in the conflict are coming to the table.